Hey, folks, and welcome to the Political Matrix News. I'm Scott Miller. This is my partner, Greg Fink. We are here to share our 30 years each of political experience and give a little bit different look at the politics of the day. We've been behind the scenes for a long time. We're going to bring you along with us. And probably for me, one of my favorite things for the week has been the judges getting arrested because really, they thought he was kidding. They thought Holcomb was kidding. They thought Bondi was kidding. They thought Patel was kidding. But when these guys are coming in here and literally, truly breaking the law, I
Yeah,
mean,
they are.
something that they would prosecute in their court if someone did, if someone literally, honestly, what what the feds did in their court that ticked her off is absolutely no different than what she did to the feds.
You're talking about the person in Wisconsin, correct? Who
Or
actually walked the illegal down her exit to evade and hide her from the authorities. It's almost like I was watching what's the movie called? The Sound of Music and the nuns in the
yes,
Vatican.
yes,
Or the nuns, it wasn't the Vatican, but the nuns in Austria were like hiding the family, the Von Trapp family singers. And
yes.
Von Trapp, and they were basically, steering them down this little alleyway here, steering them down this little alleyway there, just to avoid the authorities. It's not a movie, guys. I mean, those people won Oscars and won awards and Tonys and everything else for what they did. That's wonderful. It was a show, it was theater. This is
Uh-huh.
real life.
Let me give you a great example of what happened because this is specifically the law that they're charging her with. If the cops come to your house and they've got a warrant, and if cops come to your house and say, "Hey, we hear Pedro is in here. Can we come in and get him?" And you say, "Well, let me see the warrant." You go, "Oh, well, I don't have one. Just wait here a minute." And you go and you wait there. They wait there, and I'm sorry, not if you say a warrant. Say, "No, I haven't seen Pedro. Pedro's not here. Pedro's not here. And I'm not going to help you find Pedro." Cops go get a warrant. They come back, go inside. Pedro is there. Well, you are going to jail with Pedro. And this is exactly what happened with the judge. Except the difference is they knew the guy was there. They can see the guy. He was right. He's right there. And when you're done with him, Judge, we're going to take you. Well, doing what she did is a clear black letter violation of the law, and and the fact that she's a judge does not make her immune from it. Judges have been charged with a lot of things. This is not the first time that a judge has been charged with something. They've charged these guys, they've arrested judges in courtrooms before. Judges are no different than us, and the fact that she thought that she was sufficiently above the law to where she could just do whatever the heck she wanted to, get what she deserved, and so is that guy down in Texas.
And the roosters are coming home to roost. I mean, and that's just a real reality here. I mean, people have got to be held accountable. I mean, the judges who are just going out of control, thinking that their one little jurisdiction that they cover is strong enough to make a decision for the entire nation. This whole activism bullshit's got to stop. Period.
And the Democrats are the ones getting all ticked about this. But the fact of the matter is it's their judges that are inventing this stuff. They talk about judge not follow or Trump not following the law. The fact is that their judges are inventing new law, and
If they want to have the law done,
that's not their job.
yeah, their job is to rewrite the laws and to get enough people on their side elected to create new laws. That's what Democrats, if they Democrats wanted them to do something different, they needed to make it legal for them to do that. They have to do what we call elections, to win elections and win over the people and create laws and get them passed, which they have not even done. In fact, the last time Democrats even ran the House, all they got passed was Obamacare. Let's see how much of a failure that was. And that's the last time the Democrats ran everything,
Well,
and
the
we're
bottom
still
line,
suffering from
the bottom
that.
line is it is not the job of any judge to create new law.
No. It's the job of the Congress to create the law.
Exactly. The Congress
Mm.
creates the law. The judges interpret the law. Now, it may be
Exactly.
that the Congress writes the law in a poor way and the law needs to be updated, but that is very different from them decide. I mean, there's a great example. You and I went to a court one time where a judge looked at a black letter law in the statutes. It was not ambiguous whatsoever. and said that I know the law says this, but today it says this.
Second, that was my case, wasn't it?
Well, it was your case. I was trying. I didn't know if you wanted to
In the
specifically
back.
identify it as your case, but I mean it.
It's my
I mean it.
identified case. I was the only one to be arrested in the entire nation. Still to this date, for a law that really did not even exist for the manner of which I was charged at all.
Well. I mean, since we're going to go ahead and talk about the details of it, the specific is that the law said that if you were a PAC, someone not connected to a political campaign, then and you left a disclaimer off of some mailing, then you could be charged with a misdemeanor, with a criminal misdemeanor. But if you were part of the actual candidate's campaign and you did the same thing, it's a $50 fine. All right. So and frankly, you weren't even guilty of you weren't even guilty of leaving it off of because there was a statutory date that it had to be within 45 days of the election, and when you had caused these items to be printed, it was well beyond 45 days. So there wasn't even a disclaimer required. But that's just the technicalities of it. The important part is that the worst this judge should have been able to do is give you a $50 fine, and she deliberately altered the law and admitted that she was not following the law.
She actually said in the courtroom that she basically looked at the jury and said, "I expect y'all to convict him. I expect y'all to see. I expect the jury. You got to find him guilty. And I know that I will lose this on appeal." And she said that in the courtroom. I know that we will lose this on appeal, and they did. When I wrote my own appeal with a public defender, I wrote pretty much 90% of the appeal. I won. And it's
Hmm?
been, there's no record of it or anything else out there anymore. There's still a wonderful mugshot of me online, which I lost a little bit of weight since then. But but the whole thing is, I mean, these judges, these activist judges, they get in there with these activist DAs and these state attorneys who just want to go ahead and create laws and make up new laws and basically, suspend the reality, the real law, and create a new law just for that date. And she even said that, I mean, like you said, it does not say exactly this on any other day, but it says exactly this today in my courtroom. And then after today, it will not say this again.
And here's the malicious part about that. This judge, even though all judges complain, purport to not be political, and I'm sure this judge up in Wisconsin purports to not be political,
Yeah.
but this person, you know, is beholding to a prominent political figure around here who had it out for you, and
On top of that, we worked against her. We actually ran a campaign against her.
yeah,
She should have
well,
recused
that's true
herself.
too.
She refused to recuse herself.
And, and that is also true, but I don't know that that was a thing driving her. It may have been one of the things that someone pointed out to her. This person pointed out to her, and she said, "Oh yeah, I know what to do with this guy." Because there's an old saying with the cops. You can beat the charges, but you can't beat the ride. And that's exactly what happened here. Yes, she knew you would eventually beat the charges, but there was $20,000 down the road later in legal fees, that you never recover. So I mean, they still, it's still mission accomplished. She got to punish you for something that she felt she needed to punish you for that had nothing to do with the charge.
Exactly.
This was personal.
And yeah, it's totally personal. I mean, and so when people tell me that there's not activist judges, I just want to smack them. One, civil ways up for Sunday. I mean, there are several activist judges out there. A lot of judges we've actually worked on a lot of judicial races. There are very few of them who actually, do the letter of the law. And we've been blessed to work with a lot of really good judges. Yeah, Gary Rigosh is a very good one.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's probably one of the best ones that we worked with. Um, it's tough out there because everybody wants to have their own show and have their own star and everything else. So they want to create a new law to make some sort of news because it's boring just sitting up there every day just banging a gavel and banging a gavel. I mean, it gets redundant. I mean, they want something a little spice it up a little bit. They want
Uh,
their 15 minutes of fame sometimes, so they
well,
can go ahead and
sometimes I think most of it is just them being, you know,
assholes.
arrogant. I think more than anything else, that they're right and screw you, you're wrong.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's like this all over the country, guys. I mean, there are And what they're doing here with Trump, what they're doing with Trump and everything, it's just horrible.
Well,
And
you
how
just
they're going after him.
the point here is that when people tell you that these judges are some holier than thou kind of people, they are not.
They're not.
They are just as fallible as anyone. They're just as prone to injecting their own personal biases into things as anyone, and it is it is indisputably a profession. The legal profession is indisputably one that is almost as steeped in liberal politics as the media is. Uh, I mean,
That's a very good
there are
comparison.
conservative lawyers out there, but they are vastly outnumbered by the liberal ones.
That's a very good comparison because somebody asked me today about the media. How come Fox always says this? How come CNN and MSNBC always say this? I'm like, guys, it's all one big theater of of propaganda. In my opinion, I mean, I mean, there's not really much hard news on either side.
No, no,
There's hard news in support of their agenda on both sides, and both have two separate agendas. I mean, one agenda is to read it, this way. One agenda is to read it that way. Now, I happen to lean on the Fox side a lot more, and the Newsmax side, that side of the media, far more because it's far more truthful. Although it's not still 100% truthful. It's still have a lot of pizzazz and everything in there. But the MSNBC guys, wow. They
well,
wouldn't know what a truth stick was if it smacked them in the face with a whole bunch of nails in it.
well, and not to say that it never happens on the conservative stations, because the conservative channels have their own little biases,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they will conveniently omit some details to stories also. But the liberal media has taken it to an art form, and the bottom line is, when you think about it, the media is a business. Like CBS is finding out now, or I should say 60 Minutes is finding out now. The media is a business, and and the thing is back in the old days that you used to have reporters running around trying to find, sniffing out these stories, and they had to work really hard to get these stories. I mean, to find a story worth printing. But now they've kind of made a deal with the political devil, that since fundraising does so much to to dominate the narratives, that basically the fundraisers have shown the media, we will serve up all of these controversial stories that will bring all sorts of eyes into your media, and and all you have to do is print what we say, and then they have people on both sides that do the exact same thing.
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, you and I have both been in the back of a lot of newsrooms. Advertising drives the news, and that's what I was trying to
Yep.
explain to the person. No matter how much you want to believe Fox or how much you want to believe CNN or MSNBC or Newsmax or any of them, what really makes it to the teleprompter is what the advertisers are pushing and or what they're approving of. I mean, if the advertisers are going to be very much against it, it's not going to make it to a teleprompter. It's not going to make it that far. It will be cut very far before that. And that's not saying that they're telling them what to say, but they're definitely telling them what not to, what not to leave, what to not leave out, and everything else. I mean, they don't want them to interject anything that's going to go against their positioning.
Right. Yeah. Like when the NBA, was basically banning people from talking badly about China because they were trying to crack that Chinese market.
Right, exactly. That's
But
I mean, it's a lot of money for them. I get it.
yeah, there's a lot of money, but what you're talking about is how things used to be, in my opinion. What the way things have
Yeah, it's like
changed,
that anymore.
the media and the media and the fundraisers, all these people now are so commingled within each other, and you have all of these high level fundraising people that even go talk, when they're fundraising to these corporate entities, they'll point out, do you want eyes on your product? Because we will deliver the eyes on your product. You just have to support us with, with monetarily. So if you'll donate to our campaign, then we will put the eyes on your advertising, and thereby the eyes on your product.
Okay. Do you don't
And
think it's
that's
like
how
it
it works.
was? So you're thinking it's morphing more in that direction now?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's what's really corrupting it, because it becomes less and less and less about the story, about the truth, about exposing anything that needs to be fixed, and more about promoting outrage.
Yeah. It's like I think this week they're celebrating the 100 days of Trump's celebration, and every single media outlet has a whole different outlet go how the first 100 days went. I mean, me, I'm personally, I'm frustrated that not as much happened, and in a positive manner, to where I thought that the people that got fired should have been fired in a more proper manner, to where they stayed fired. I mean, it's already. I wish the numbers were to stay the same, but I wish they would have fired the right people instead of accidentally firing some of the wrong people. And because there's plenty of people there to fire, there's plenty of waste. Just I wish we could get the numbers a little higher and actually fired more people that were on the waste side instead
Well,
of doing it without the knowledge of firing a lot of people that we probably shouldn't have fired.
well, I mean, the bottom line, and I'm not begrudging them this because I mean, this is one of the primary tenets of PR. But not acknowledging the other person's side, no matter how compelling it is. Um, but when when they fire, they've said that they fired all these people, and they will find two or three people that have a sympathetic story that may not even just be that they have a sympathetic story. They may have actual other issues that absolutely justified their firing.
Determination, yeah.
But you know, we don't leave that. We don't talk about that part. We just talk about the sympathetic part about how
Exactly.
they're a fresh faced college student that was just out there who wanted to be a park ranger, and they're out there trying to protect our wildlife
Oh,
and
I think
natural
that's
resources. All right. Well, maybe all of those people were offered a buyout.
yeah. I mean,
It wasn't just hit the bricks. It was, hey, we'll pay you for 9 months if you go find a different job.
yeah, I do question some of them, like the CDC Atlanta, the CDC that was handling all the smoking and lung disease issues. They shut
Mhm.
down the whole facility,
Okay.
which I thought was interesting. Because I thought lung cancer was still a big deal, smoking was still a big deal. But
Well,
maybe maybe they moved it somewhere else. I don't know. I don't have all the information on why they terminated it. I don't have any of the information. I just know the people that were working there who are not working anymore. They took the 8 month buyout. They took the 8 months and everything else, and they're trying to start working everything else on their own. And this is going to be tough for them. But I really exactly don't really know what led. I mean, I guess my biggest question is not knowing what led to the reasons leaves a lot of people in the dark. And so, I
and
mean,
that's actually the
and
big vulnerability is they're not adequately explaining these things. They're happening
exactly.
so fast they can't craft an explanation. On the
And
other hand, if
if
they
they
went
would, that
slower, they may not get an opportunity to craft one.
yeah. I mean, on one hand, for a good PR side, it would have been a good idea for them to have a good reason why each thing was happening. But at the same time, you're right. Every time you have a good reason, there's always somebody right around to knock down that reason, making a bad reason. And so, I mean, justifying it to you might just be a way of it's not going to really matter to a lot of other people, depending on who's picking up the media spin on it. Because what is the definition of is?
Yeah, yeah.
There's a
What is the
definition of
definition of
is.
this exactly?
There is a definition of it is whatever CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or whatever media outlet that picks up the definition of this says it is.
Hmm.
And so I mean we have no true definitions of words anymore. I mean there are no real pronouns anymore.
Well, I can tell you this: the people that you see, the more outraged they are, the more guilty of ignoring someone else's point they are,
The biggest
for
thing I
sure.
wish, right? The biggest thing I wish during the first 100 days that would have happened was I wish we would have had a more consistent plan on getting the tax cut and everything
Yeah.
done quicker and faster. And I wish that capital gains taxes would have came down a lot more.
Well,
I mean, okay,
well,
because I think that would have helped. I think that would have put a big jolt in the stock market quite a bit.
Well, anyone that's a real investor knows knows you got to put out a little bit of money sometimes to make some big money.
Yeah.
So, and I believe in my heart that the things that are happening, the changes that President Trump is making, are long overdue, and before he's out of office, we will be way over where we would have been, even if he had even if he had not made these choices. If he had only conducted himself the way he did as far as economic policy during the first Trump administration, what he's done now is that on steroids, and is going to be way better than it would have been before. If he'd just done what he had done in the first term, and which wasn't much because they stopped him on most of it.
Right. That's what you keep telling me. I keep asking how come he's going such a blitzkrieg moment, and it's like every day is the last day. You got to get it done. And one thing he has done that everybody cannot run away from is the border. The border is under total control now. And 10,000 Mexican troops, 10,000 American troops, only an average of 25 or 30 people crossing a week. Not a day, but a week. And so, it's they obviously got the fentanyl and the human trafficking and all that crossing the border. They have that under control, and nobody, the Republican, Democrat, Independent, nobody can deny that. And that is actually the number one reason that if he got the votes. That's the number one reason he's there.
And he didn't have to wait for Congress to change any
No, he
law, to pass
didn't.
any law, to do anything.
He said, "Act like a president.
Act like a
Yeah,
president. There you
act
go.
like the commander in chief." Is all he had to do, and
Uh-huh.
he did it. It's done. And that needs to stay that way. And it's a good precedent to have set for the next several generations. A secure border is a safe border. You don't have to have the big walls and everything else and all that stuff. You have to have it armed and supported and taken care of. Yeah, Mexico brings those 10,000 troops back. A good Catholic again, it will rue the day they do that. It will rue the day.
Well,
It'll
I
tell
think I
Rouge.
think it's very apparent to Mexico that their territorial integrity is entirely unimportant to President Trump. And if they want to let the cartels run roughshod over them, that's fine. But don't think that we won't send the First Armored Division right across the Rio Grande.
Yeah. They did have to be totally blind to not realize the benefit this is for their country as well. This is a
Well,
huge benefit for them also.
we're already stacking military hardware up there, and I would fully expect President Trump to put in some big orders for new drones that'll do nothing but sit there and patrol the border up and down.
Yeah, Mexico's gotta be happy with feeling safer like this. People are not coming through to the south border to go to the northern border anymore. Let's stop.
I'll guarantee you the Mexicans, the just rank and file,
Oh, they
regular
should be
mom
very
and pop
happy.
folks are very happy. I mean, they may get a little
Safe.
outraged here and there because, oh, you said something insulting. But at the end of the day, they look around and go,
Yeah, what about this MS-13 thing? That's not the story of the week anymore. It's not the flavor of the week. They went to a different flavor this week.
yeah, once you started finding all of these court documents that label this kid as an MS-13, there's a couple of frustrating things about that kid too. And one of which is that there is a stop order for removal of him, but the stop order stops him from being removed to Guatemala. All right, which is actual where. Actually, there's no explanation as to why it says Guatemala, but it doesn't say it doesn't say Venezuela, it doesn't say El Salvador, it says Guatemala, which is apparently where
Yeah,
his family moved at some point. So the removal order says that the stop order says he can't be removed to Guatemala. Well, he ain't in Guatemala. And another thing about it is that it says that he is so he can't go to he's not a he's in Guatemala and he and the other thing is really all they really have to do is the DOJ, and I don't know why the DOJ does it. There may be a technical reason why they don't do this. If they just go to the judge that wrote these orders and ask him to
yeah,
reopen the case, then he's going. This judge is the one that knows that he's an MS-13 guy. Just have the judge reopen the case, reaffirm all this stuff. See you later. Debate's over. But I kind of think the debate's on its way over anyway
yeah.
because
This is way too much attention for one kid. Who
I'm glad
cares?
that, as usual, they mortgage the farm on something like this and it blows up in their face.
Oh yeah, that's a good thing. But this whole idea here of supporting terrorism and the way the left is supporting it, and these gang members, and they're saying that these are just really gangs. They're not really terrorists. I'm like, man, you
Kind of a
guys
distinction without a
really,
difference.
really have no idea what you're talking about. In fact, why don't you guys go hang out with them? Why don't y'all go be with their next victim? And then
Yeah,
you come back and tell me that.
yeah.
You let me
I
know.
can show you.
You let
I
me
can show
know.
you some street corners where there's MS-13 guys. Y'all go out. Y'all go chill.
Yeah.
See how relaxed you feel.
And let us know how let us know how it works out for you.
Hmm.
And if you can't, your next of kin might let us know how it works out for you. Because I mean, it's these guys are dangerous. There's nothing else about it. Period. I mean, all they want to do is run drugs or run guns and do everything else they can to hurt people. And for some reason, as I keep arguing with Democrats who keep saying that they want these immigrants over here to do the work that nobody else is doing, I'm like, you guys just and they love China. I mean, they love child labor. They love slave labor. I mean, why in
That
the world are the
that is
Democrats
what that
still
is.
stuck on slavery? Why?
Well,
I mean, I know they
uh,
had it a couple hundred years ago, and we had a war to stop it, and they're still pushing it, just
when
with
you
a
think about it, for
different race.
the entire history of the Democratic Party, they've been supporting some form of slavery.
I just I chose a different race. It's Hispanics now for slavery and everything. I mean,
Hmm.
it's disgusting. I mean, it's wrong. I mean, they think it's okay for these guys to work for 10 or 15 bucks a day because nobody else will do the job. I
Well,
mean,
that's not true though. And that's they keep trying to. I've heard that no one else will do the job narrative forever. What that means is that they have successfully pushed the entry level wages down to a level to where people in this country it's can't economically do the job because they're honest, they pay their taxes, they do what they got to do. So now the judges, the waitress, good lord, the wages have been so aggressively pushed down over the years that yeah, okay, they won't do it but back in what was it, the 90s, the median income, I was just looking at this today, that back in the 90s, like in Philadelphia, the median income was around $40,000. You could buy a median kind of house for about 80 grand. So basically two times the annual salary, you could buy a decent house. Now the median salary's only gone up to $60,000, but the cost of that same house is 3 or 4 times what the median salary is. Right? Do you think that's because you don't think
that
that
has to
entry
do
level
away. How much
wages
is it?
don't aren't affecting that?
Hey,
And frankly, one more point with that. Not only is the fact that they're accepting lower wages a problem, but you have to house them somewhere, so they're taking away all of the entry level housing too. So now the entry level housing prices are artificially high, and the entry level wages are artificially low. And it's all because you have people that come to this country who don't feel like they can complain when they get cheated by their boss at work because he decides just to not pay him for doing this section of the job. Is when they talk they talk about how these illegal immigrants, they come here and they pay their taxes and they do whatever.
right.
They don't pay their taxes. Those guys come over here. I mean, there's a select number of them that do, but just about every illegal item that I've ever run into, is a 1099 employee,
Yeah, getting
and
pin of cash.
and a lot of them are
Uh-huh.
part of a crew. So I don't even get to see all the people except for certain jobs that are certified payroll jobs. I don't get to see everyone on the crew, and they have a lot of things where people will roll up and and they'll have some guy that's oh, he's just bringing us lunch, and then next thing you know, he's got a hammer in his hand doing something.
I mean, even the hotel industry. It's not talking about Latinos. It's talking about Ukrainians, Eastern Europeans in the hotel industry. I mean, a lot of times, whenever I was working at Portofino, I had a lot of friends who were Ukrainian who were the housekeepers, and I asked them where they lived. And they lived like 11 or 12 to an apartment. So
Mm-hmm.
a two-bedroom apartment, they put 12 people in it. And they said, we got this nice little two-bedroom condo on the beach. I'm like, that sounds nice. It's a nice beach condo, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
12 people living in it. 12. That's
And so,
ridiculous.
well, what are they going to do? Complain? No, because
No.
that's a good way
And
to
then,
get invited not to work there.
and then you have your
And
lower level hotels, your like 2-star and 1-star hotels that have the Puerto Ricans working in there. And so the Puerto Ricans, they've got like 8 or 10 to a house there too.
well, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if the stars really impact who is there. But what I do know is very often there's like a guy that speaks English, a guy in the crew that speaks
Exactly.
English,
One speaks
and
English.
and and you pay him, or actually, I contract with like the licensed trade guy. The licensed trade guy is the one that winds up hiring all these little crews, and he has one of these crews that'll just pay, that he'll do he'll pay the crew chief, and then the crew chief
Right.
will split the money. Well, maybe the crew chief is splitting the money fair. Maybe he's, he's just depending on the fact that these guys, he's got something on these guys, like, got their kids somewhere or something. Who knows?
Exactly. I mean, you and I have both done this work before. I grew up just picking tobacco. I picked peanuts. I picked watermelon. I mean, I've done all the kind of hard work. I've dug holes and dug ditches for pools or for footers, for gymnasiums, for condominium complexes. I mean, you've done the same kind of work and everything. I worked on a cattle farm. You worked on a cattle farm. I've milked cows. I mean, people will do it. All you have to do is give them a fair wage.
They absolutely will. Like I said, you you can't celebrate the fact that we have successfully devalued the entry level jobs in this country to the point where you just can't get people to work for it. Well, when people pay their taxes and do the right thing, there's a certain level of income. They talk about this living wage. Well, the reason we're even discussing a living wage is because the people who are advocating for the living wage have also advocated for letting all these, below, or I guess basically slave class people into the country. You start importing a bunch of people that drive the bottom wages down, then you can't be surprised when you can't get a living wage.
Exactly. And when you start treating them like a slave class mentality, you create a whole feudal system that did not exist before and does not need to exist. And then you wonder, well, how come there's this huge separation between all these people who are driving the wages down and the rich, and there's no middle class? It's because the Democrats don't want a middle class. The Democrats are the oligarchs. The Democrats are the billionaires. The Democrats are the ones who want government to keep their thumbs on everybody to stop, to stop growth. Period.
Yeah, I don't know that I nearly buy into that narrative either, because it's not it's not like people are back there plotting to see how can I push this guy down, how can I push this guy down. What
I
the
think some
plot?
are.
No, there is not. That is just BS. Fundraising narratives. That's all that is. What they're actually doing is they're not trying to figure out how do I keep these people down. It's how do I get these people to work for less money so I can keep more of it.
I think a lot of it. So you don't think the Democrats have a lot of control mechanism in their mindset, how they can control the masses or control people?
I think the Democrats as a party do have done a lot to persuade the black voters in particular that their plot is helpless and there's nothing they can do to fight the white devil, unless, or I'm sorry, the white male devil at this point. There's nothing that they can do unless they support them. The only way for you to succeed is for you to keep me in office so that I can get these laws out of the way. And the fact of the matter is every black person that stays in school, even if they only get high school diplomas, doesn't have kids when they're teenagers. If they do have kids, they wind up getting a partner of some kind. Those kind of folks do fine. If they go to college and do all those other things, they do really well. They do as well as anyone who focuses their life on doing the right thing and not on finding the right person to blame.
That's actually, I guess, the biggest thing is finding the right person to blame, which is the whole victim mentality of the left and everything.
I know I've talked about this study before, but it's one of my favorites. Where they grabbed a group of women in this case, but it would apply to almost you could construct this same study with almost any group of people. But in this case, they took a bunch of women and they told them that the research project was to see how people who were applying for jobs who had disfiguring scars were treated differently from people who didn't have them. And they had them in front of a makeup mirror and they did these great scars and they looked great. They looked real and convincing. And then they started to go out and they said, "Oh, let me fix this." And they had to sit them down and touch it up a little bit. Well, the touch up was actually them completely removing the artificial scar. and they run them into this interview, and 80% of them reported that they felt like the interviewer, their questions that had made comments that were directly referencing this scar, and that they had been discriminated against because of this disfigurement. The fact is they didn't have a disfigurement. They just believed that they did.
Yeah, sad. The power of
It's
suggestive,
it's a real
suggestive
thing.
thinking. Yeah,
It is absolutely a real thing.
that's real thing, and that's what I mean. That's what they play off of really well in their politics. I mean, it's everything from the trans movement to where they're saying this is, it's all gaslighting. I guess is the best way of putting it. And it's creating a reality that's not real, and telling these people
Well,
it is
you
reality.
you think about how they load this whole thing up. They frame the whole thing as oppression, and then they tell people these people are oppressing you, and then
Right,
they say, and then when they get pushback for some, they come up with some, you know, narrative that they know is going to have an objectionable component to a large swath of the country. And when it has the predictable, pushback, then they say the only reason these people are pushing back is because they're racist, sexist, homophobic, whatever. It's the only excuse is discriminatory, and it's just not true.
right. So, what do you think about? I know you don't really care too much about the Ukraine Russia issue at all, and you said that numerous times, but it is still a topic. Putin did say he wanted to declare a ceasefire as long as he gets Crimea back.
I don't know. I think
He's like,
if this
I'm okay as long as I get out my choice.
like I said, there are bad people on both sides of that story, but I do think that if this thing goes another 6 months, Russia's going to have to capitulate entirely. They have more problems than people realize. They have certainly more problems than people are talking about. Like I said, the effective rate of casualties is double what they said, even what they said it is. Assuming that what they said it is correct, it's double of that, because you had almost 1 million people of military age who are actually also the people who work at home, and actually make the economy run. They left, and they have 1 million casualties. And in order to get people to participate at all, they're having to pay them these stupid salaries. And if they stop doing that, they'll stop getting people to participate in the war at all. They have problems running out of their ears. And if it goes on another 6 months, I think Putin will be done anyway. Honestly,
There's an
but I
story
don't
on
think.
CBS.
I don't think. I think that I don't think that Putin is serious. You know, I've had people in business, in my years in business. I had this one guy. We worked out a multi-million-dollar deal with him. I knew before he approached us, and he said he wanted to make this deal. It was about an $8 million deal, and I knew I was wasting my time getting in with him because I knew how he is. And sure enough, after days and weeks of hard fought negotiating, we had him finally in our conference room, and we all agreed in principle on all the terms, and everyone agreed as we agreed, and we shook hands, and everyone was slapping our backs, all excited about the deal. He gets to the parking lot and calls and changes the deal and blows the whole thing up. That's Putin. I've
Yeah,
dealt with this kind of guy before.
Putin's a party flipper.
Well,
I
I know
think
about
he'll poop on
that,
his
but
party.
I don't know about that. But I know who he is. I mean, there's a lot of people who use that as a negotiating tactic. Uh, they try to push for one extra thing just to see if they can throw one more thing on. Putin does it because he knows that there's no consequences for him.
And that's how we're trying to use tariffs. I mean, we're trying to use tariffs as a negotiating tactic. It seems to be working to a degree with a lot of our partners. China,
Well,
that's a little bit of a
well,
mess.
the left is trying to call all these tariffs a failure. I'm looking at them and seeing them as a resounding success, because the Trump was trying to send a message, and the message is this could be real. This could happen to you. This is a drill right now.
Yeah,
But we're serious, and now they're taking him serious.
exactly. I mean, they're definitely taking them serious. I'm a personally of the opinion that we should just cripple China every which way. I have no sympathy for them whatsoever. And as far as the rest of the nations, for some reason, Canada's being a little bit uppity about the tariffs. I have no idea why they're trying to battle us on tariffs, or who Canada thinks they are. I have no idea what the concept or the rationale, but how their stupidity is. But
Well,
Hey, Ontario
you know,
wants to keep on raising.
from a political perspective, and you need to look at this through a political lens too. Where Trump made a mistake on this thing, that was a nice little a little talking point that he should have trotted out once or twice. But if he wanted to actually impact Canada, telling Canadians that we're just going to come in and buy you is not the way to get a broad based support in Canada.
It's probably,
So
yeah, probably, yeah, I
so
agree.
we're going to wind up with with several more years. I don't even know how often they have elections, but we're going to wind up with several more years of a combative leadership over there when we could have had only a mildly compatible one in Pierre Polo, whatever his name is.
You think that trying to make them a 51st state and saying that they shouldn't even be their own country was what irritating to them?
I guarantee it would have been interesting. It would have been irritating to me. You know,
I'm
it's
sure.
fine. It's fine to troll Greenland about it, but what Trump is going, what Trump has a different take on Greenland anyway. I mean, if he thought they were open to it, I think he would push it and try to make them, a U.S. territory. But what I think he really wants to do is start creating a conversation around them where we get into their mineral rights and we get into there's a lot of strategic things over there in a country that basically has the population of 2 or 3 counties over in Florida, and I don't mean Miami-Dade, I mean like the Panhandle, like Scambia, Santa Rosa, Okaloosa.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
there's hardly anyone lives in that country, and so it is something that is ripe for a deal. It's not ripe for taking, but it's certainly ripe for a deal. And honestly, I think that what Trump really was trying to do, and frankly has succeeded in doing, is he has put some distance between them and Denmark,
Right. He definitely
and with
has.
that distance, he can get a better deal by making the deal directly with.
Yeah, there's a new news article out by CBS News tonight saying that we are spending more this year than we did last year, the first 100 days.
Mhm.
That we're actually up in spending instead of down with all the cuts that we made. And so,
Wait.
yeah,
No, I'm not going to dismiss it out of. Even when it comes from questionable sources like MSNBC and CNN and stuff like that, I
CBS, I
don't
can
dis.
send you the article here.
And CBS, I mean, it's all the same. I don't dismiss it out of hand, but they have such a long history of taking a
Bullshit.
grain of truth and wrapping it up in a crap load of lies. So I reserve judgment on that till I see it, because everything they've told me in the past has turned out to be not true.
Yeah, they're trying to say that, we're trying to spend more money and granted, I mean, we are probably gonna have to spend more to cut things. I mean, these cuts are not immediate. And that's kind of what Trump kept telling everybody. These things are
Yeah.
not immediate. These
Yeah.
things are on a process. I mean, in order to
Mm-hmm.
cut a lot of it, first of all, we had to hire back almost everybody they fired. I mean, the courts made them hire back a good majority, except for the IRS people and the CDC people. They let them go. And CDC, except for my friends who work at the CDC, I feel bad for them. I have any friends who work at the IRS, and so I'm happy about that. And so, if there's any IRS people watching, I hope you guys keep your jobs. But everybody else who lost, is my real name anyway. And so, but anyhow, I mean, all the other cuts, I mean, the reality is that the money's not going to be there. Now the VA, they are shutting clinics down and they're consolidating clinics. I mean, I'm moving to an area called Palm Coast, and we had a clinic in Daytona Beach and a clinic in St. Augustine, which are only like 45 minutes apart from each other. And there's a big, huge hospital in Orlando, just 25 minutes south of Daytona, and a very large hospital again in Jacksonville, just 20 minutes north of St. Augustine. They shut the clinics down. They're not taking any more new patients because I mean, redundancy. I mean, we have a huge hospital very close. I mean, it's not, it breaks the convenience level, but it's not that inconvenient, really. And it will save a lot of money on the VA side. And so they're consolidating a lot of the resources and everything else by just, putting the clinic and absorbing it into the hospital. Now, a lot of people that work in the clinic aren't happy, but they got to drive an extra half hour to work.
Well, I'll tell you
Is
this
what
right
it is.
now: Trump's goal is to convert the entire VA into community care.
Yes. I mean, the VA in Pensacola is basically a big referral service.
Mhm.
I mean, there's no doctors hardly at all.
Well, I don't know.
in that hospital, except for like 4 hours a day, 4 or 5 hours
No,
a day.
no, my girlfriend sees a lot of VA doctors. She
Oh, she
cares
does?
about, yeah, her primary care is a VA doc. And today
Down
she
Pensacola?
saw, yeah, in Pensacola. And today she saw
Huh.
what did she see? It was an ENT, an ear, nose, and throat guy.
That must be new then.
And she has a counselor that she sees that's with the VA.
I have counts, yeah. Yeah,
Well,
because for years the VA was just referring people out to primary care doctors in Pensacola area and ENT people in Pensacola and so on and so forth.
you know what? I don't know for a fact the ENT was, because her gastro guy that she went to go see is also a he is not VA. That is a just a normal provider over in
Because,
Gulf Breeze.
because basically when I would go to the VA clinic in Pensacola, I'd go there just for the overall checkup. And then they refer me to they have like a general practitioner there. And for anything else, he'd refer me to everybody else in Pensacola, like a Sacred Heart or Baptist Hospital or
Well,
SFAR or so on and so forth.
all I know is about the limited experiences
Yeah.
that I've had since I've been dating my girlfriend.
But that was also like 10 years ago, 8 years ago when I was going there.
Like I said, don't know,
So,
don't know.
but yeah, it's interesting. And that's the whole idea of the VA. They were pushing for a long time to just make a huge referral service.
Which I think is a
And
great idea.
which is a good idea because private medical care is very good.
Mhm.
And I mean, although I'm very blessed with the VA medical care over here in Gainesville in this region of Florida, probably some of the best VA care in the country over here. And you got great doctors and great nurses and great service from top to bottom.
Well, my problem with the VA and any government thing as a provider is, yet let's say that they invest in a piece of equipment, then they're not allowed to to replace that piece of equipment until there is no other option, until it stops having any value in delivering the mission
Exactly.
period. In a
That's very true.
private setting, they will replace that equipment as often as they feel like they need to be competitive with the other providers, and the government doesn't care about that.
No, in fact, over here in Gainesville, the VA actually has a tunnel underneath the ground that goes
Uh-huh.
to the Shands Hospital, which is the University of Florida and UF Health Hospital, because a lot of their equipment at the VA side is not up to date or it's
Of course
outdated,
it
and
is.
they can't get rid of it, but they also can't really update it. And so we go use the medical equipment at Shands.
Mhm. So yeah, exactly, that sort of thing, exactly.
So because their hands are tied.
Well, I mean, it literally takes an act of Congress to replace any of that equipment.
Right.
Congress literally has to debate and get things done, and they have figured out that they have to, there's a schedule that they have to do this on. But when things change, when the needs of the clinic changes, that doesn't change the budgeting. Then we're talking about another act of Congress.
Exactly. Real quick, I think we're gonna almost out here with the show. I think we're gonna talk about some sports here real quick, which is another act of Congress. Because people are actually asking Congress to look into this, which I think is actually kind of funny. It has to do
Look
with
at
Deion
what?
Sanders, and says, "How come Deion Sanders' kid did not make it all the
Oh
way
my
into the hundred?"
God!
I'm serious. I've seen articles about people want a full congressional investigation into how the NFL is picking their draft picks because it's supposed to be how they pick them on the field and nothing else. And because I guess the intangibles don't matter all of a sudden. Granted,
No,
I'm a big Sanders
let,
fan.
just like I said last week, what's happening to Shadur Sanders is entirely his fault. He is his daddy's son. Boomer Esiason wrote a great article about this, about what happened and how it happened, because Boomer, still talks to all these personnel, these back office people, these things, and he talked to 5 different teams who had members of their draft team that flat-footed said their owners told them to take him off the board, that they do not want him on their team because of his attitude. All right, and anyone that knows his daddy, the difference between him and his daddy is that Deion could back it up. All right, Shadur ain't that guy. Shadur is not Deion Sanders. When Deion Sanders was drafted, there was no doubt he was going to go to the NFL and deliver, and he sure as heck did. But he also had this cocky attitude that he could do what he wanted to because of it. Well, Shadur's got that attitude too. but Shador ain't his daddy.
You don't think so? You don't think Shador has the talent of Dion?
I do not think he has the talent of Dion. Dion had sufficient talent so that someone like Jerry Glanville would suck it up and let him go play baseball, even though he was, an Atlanta Falcon. And Jerry Glanville was not amused, but the
He
problem
handled
that
it pretty
he
well.
had was when you put Dion in the backfield, you compelled the defense to throw it to the other side, because if you threw it anywhere near Dion, it was going to be in his head.
Yeah, well, still, I mean, yeah, I think it's very interesting that people are all of a sudden not really. I mean, first of all, I thought he would have been picked higher, but the whole idea that the intangibles mattered so much that people are actually shocked by that after the entire intangible issue that cost the NFL billions of dollars of people kneeling and protesting cops and protesting police and their political activism like they did a few years ago. If people don't
Mhm.
remember how sensitive they are about anything, they just want them to play on the field. That's it. Keep your mouth shut. Uh, you know,
Well,
drive the
Shador,
ball down the field and play.
unfortunately for Shador, he doesn't represent any sort of marginalized, minority group. I realize he's a black kid, but he's not out there advocating for any of them. Frankly, the real problem that he has is that he's a Christian, because they know the NFL knows that the Christians aren't going to organize boycotts because of Shador Sanders. So he couldn't. There are so many cliches. Be a team player, work with everyone. That very often really mean people suck it up and get marginalized. There's a certain level of working with other people that you have to do to, one, get them to work with you. Two, not create an attitude on the whole team that that just this dissent, and people just don't like walking on eggshells, and it's very clear that Shador right now, Shador is making it seem very clear that that he's going to be hard to work with. Frankly, I don't know what's worse, him having no success or having even marginal success, because as soon as he has any success at all, it's going to be the rebirth of Deion Sanders without the talent.
Okay, you see, you had to slide that right in there.
He is
He
not
might
his
get it. He
daddy.
might have the talent one day.
One day, but when you're talking about millions and millions of dollars, I don't even know what his contract would wind up being. If he was in the first round like he had, it would have been
Well, he's
$10
taking a
million
pay cut
dollars.
at Cleveland because right now he's $6 million a year at Colorado, and they're offered him $5.8 million for 3 years.
Well, it don't matter what they're offering what they're giving at Colorado. His eligibility's up.
That's right, true. That's also, I mean, that's the first NIL player taking a pay cut.
Well, that is the big thing, isn't it?
That's,
Is that
that's a whole nother story altogether.
it's going millions of dollars. It is going to be, regardless of frankly, wherever he's taken. If he's a drafted quarterback, he is going to be a multi-million-dollar investment. Everyone looks at Colin Kaepernick, and I don't know why they had such a problem with the Florida quarterback. God dang it, the Christian.
Well,
Tim Tebow. I don't know what made Tim Tebow so controversial, because I thought he was a pretty good player. But, there was so much noise around his Christendom
it's the
that you
beginning of
couldn't
the
really
wokeism.
focus on his playing.
I mean, he's doing that at the very beginning of the whole woke movement, just anti. So the timing was just not there. Now, if
Now,
Tim Tebow would have done it now, I think it'd be a whole different story. Thanks,
I
15
think
years
probably
later.
so. I think probably so. But I think at best, well, I don't know. He was never allowed to develop beyond a mid-level,
Yeah.
and that is a shame, because I think he had more talent than that. Now, was he going to be the GOAT? I don't know about that, but we'll never know, because he got run out before his time.
I still think, and I don't have any proof of this, that last concussion he got from Florida State
Uh-huh.
rang his bell. I think that, that's still lasting with him. I mean, that was
And
one bad illegal hit.
yeah, and there
Horrible
may be
hit.
something to that. Honestly, there may be. There's a lot of moving parts in this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, but I can say, that Tebow's was really an example of persecution. Kaepernick was an entirely self-inflicted wound, and what they're seeing is ghosts of Kaepernick. Not even a left policy or a right policy kind of thing, as much as it
Anything.
is just a distraction that they don't.
Exactly. Just play the ball on the field.
Exactly. Because that's all they really want at the end of the day.
The draft was so good that they actually drafted a kicker, which
Yeah.
they never draft kickers. They drafted
Right.
the Florida Gators kicker. He went to
Mhm.
Denver, and usually the kickers are all walk-ons in the NFL.
Yeah.
He's that good. That's how important they are. Just about the point.
Exactly.
You guys
Anyway,
have a
so
wonderful. You guys have a wonderful week here and everything, and we're gonna sit back and watch the celebration of all the different points of view of the first 100 days of Trump, and we're gonna watch out the next few thousand days of Trump and see if it gets any better or not. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure it is going to get better. The stock market's already all over the place. I mean, it's bouncing up and down and down and up, and I'm
I'll
gonna,
tell you, I'll tell you right now that these billionaires with all these hedge funds, the guys that really like Trump are the hedge fund guys because they are making a
they're
killing.
shorting,
Yeah, shorting it and then
going
calling it. I
long,
mean,
and yeah,
I mean, they're riding these waves up and down and making money, and the day traders, both of them, making
oh
money
yeah,
hand over fist. Trump's their hero. I guarantee you that.
yeah. I mean, what? Walmart and a lot of these old brick and mortar things are dropping, and tech is going up, and tech drops, and the old brick and mortar stores go up. I mean, it's just it's just there's so many different things going on in the market. People have no idea how complicated
We
this really is, and they're trying to oversimplify it every day.
Yeah, we have to cut China loose. Period.
Yeah, we do.
And there are going to be some bumps in the road in the process, but we got to cut them loose
Yeah, we got
because
to
it's
cut
only a
them.
matter of time. Yeah, it is only a matter of time before China does something. Either they have an internal implosion. Think about that. What they were already heading for an implosion. What if they have this implosion and we depend on them?
Exactly.
It's going to be COVID all over again.
I think Bill Maher actually brought it up in California and a lot of their Democrat states follow the regulations in order to build a rare earth
Mhm.
to mine it. It takes 29 years
Yeah,
to get online.
yeah.
And we haven't really got to look at how we adjust and approach all these different situations, how we approach the mining process, and how we approach making sure we can still be self-reliant on our own area and other areas as well. And we have to got to start doing it quickly because time is of the essence. Period.
I will make this prediction. It takes 29 years to open a rare earth mine in the United States. By the time we could open a rare earth mine in the United States, the technology that needed that mineral would have moved on to something else.
Exactly. I want to be around.
It wouldn't even need the technology anymore.
And so, I mean, all these regulations, and that's what the new guy that EPA is trying to do is trying to cut all this red tape. Lee Zeldin, he's
Mhm.
cutting a lot of red tape. He's also trying to find where all the money was that Biden and the other EPA people just basically stole outright and gave to other fraudulent NGOs.
That's the part that I really can't understand how these guys are okay with them literally in front of they say that all of this is happening out in the open, and that's a shocking thing. But they're talking about they're saying the fascism is happening out in the open. We're seeing it in real time. What we saw in real time was the Democrats on their way out paying off all their buddies, and not one of the Democrats is outraged by it.
And because I think, Brian, most of the Democrats got a piece.
Oh my God! There is one more thing that I want to mention before we go that I know you'll have a take on. Chris Murphy was having a fit today because the Trumps are opening a private club in D.C. that's going to serve politicians and foreign dignitaries, and the fee to get in, the annual fee to get in is $500,000, and it's intended to be something that keeps legislators and wealthy people together in the same room. And he's outraged by that. And the whole time I'm sitting there reading the story or listening to him pontificate about it, I'm like, did you know that in every capital city in this country, there are private clubs just like that fulfill that exact purpose? And the only thing that's
Exactly.
ticking you off is that you don't have the money to get in.
He has money to get it. He'll get it.
Of course he will. Well,
Somebody will
yeah, I
put
mean,
it up for him.
he'll fundraise for an extra day, or actually, usually those kind of clubs let legislators in for free.
Exactly. You can just walk right in. I mean, a wonderful speaker, not the Democrat leader, Chuck Schumer. I mean, he's out there attacking judges and attacking the Supreme Court one day. That he's saying that basically that we're the whole idea of us arresting judges is a constitutional crisis for I mean, the whole double standard here is that he's threatening the Supreme Court justices' lives and saying that if they vote a certain way, they got
I
to
know,
watch
right?
out. You got to be careful how they go home. And then he's upset because his judges are breaking the law and they get arrested. And the hypocrisy is huge. And
Yeah,
and all these guys, I
it's
mean, the only guys ready to raise money in Democrats right now are AOC and Bernie. Bernie's mainly raising it for AOC for
well,
her new presidential race because I guess she's going to be the presidential darling of the left, and she'll be running against Gavin Newsom.
well, I mean, that's the competition
Shapiro.
in the Democrat Party is to be the most successful liar. Because you know who her co-chair for the Democratic Party is, right? Our buddy David Hogg.
David. I have a lot of
Oh,
mutual friends with him, so I'm not going to say anything.
that's
But
funny.
he's an interesting guy. He's a good guy. He's a nice guy. Actually, he's a good person.
Who?
David Hogg.
David Hogg?
He's a decent person.
He is a compulsive liar, just like the rest of them.
I'm trying to be a politically, you say agree.
No. Well, I'm glad that
Actually,
you have friends that are friends with him.
well, tell you the truth, I've never met him before.
And look,
So since I've
look,
never met him,
would
and I
look.
never had a
I
conversation
don't
with
care
him.
if you're friends with him. I don't care if your friends are friends with him. That's not the point. He is he is a liar, and I'd call him out on that to his face.
Okay. I
Just because.
actually don't really know exactly that much background about David Hogg, so I actually have to plead ignorant about a lot of it.
Well, you think of every anti-Second Amendment talking point that you've
Well, he's
ever
wrong on the
heard.
Second Amendment. That's period. Yeah, he's definitely wrong on that.
Well, there you go. I mean, I don't care what your issue is, whether it's Second Amendment or climate change or whatever.
Oh yeah, I know.
If you could only support it by manufacturing just outright lies that when you're it's bad enough that they manufacture these lies, but on top of that, then when it becomes clear that they've lied, they stop the talking point for a little while and then just bring it back when no one's talking about what a
That's how
lie
they
it is.
fundraise. How are they going to eat otherwise?
Exactly. So
And now, who do you think is a Republican lead? Because I mean, Trump is not running for a third term. I don't think. Hold on. Anyway, who do you think besides him?
I don't know. That people keep talking about how JD Vance is imploding and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, what the fuck are you talking about? He's not imploding. I think he's doing an outstanding job.
He's doing a good job as VP.
Well, Vance's viability as a candidate that far out is going to be entirely tied to how well the Trump presidency runs. If if it goes as well as Trump has suggested it is, Vance will be pretty hard to beat. In fact, I would go so far to say he would be unbeatable if he got that far. If Trump does,
but if it goes the other way around,
if Trump does good but not awesome,
I think Youngkin.
Youngkin's he's viable. I know Rubio's still going to have his eyes set on it and having a big part in the administration.
Rubio again.
Yeah, we could do Rubio again. We could do Rubio in there. He certainly has the international credentials. A lot of it's going to be, and this is why I always say I don't care who's leading the polls. You rarely know the name of the guy that's going to win. This far out, because the issues change over time, and the guy that's strong on the issues today may not be strong on the current issues when it comes time to make that decision. So it's hard to say, really.
I think Schmidt from Missouri is a good choice. Is a good possible leader. Peter Schmidt from Missouri.
Yeah. I mean, he's good. Honestly, you may be looking at depending on the temperature of the country, you may be looking at a Josh Hawley. Because senators, every dang senator up there has had at least entertained the possibility of becoming a president.
But we need a governor. I think we need a governor, in my opinion.
It's hard to say.
Sunini would be, I think, really good. I think Yankee would be would do a good job.
That's
I
not what
think
you. That's not what you said.
DeSantis.
You didn't ask me who I thought would do a good job. You asked me who I thought would be viable.
Yeah, I think both of them will be viable as well. I think also
Yeah.
DeSantis is going to come back around again, and I think
So I think there's there's a solid chance he's going to think that he can do it again. Although he's
I
got
mean,
some exposure that may kill him.
his biggest weakness is his inability to do retail politics. Instead of being to do retail politics and shake people's
We'll
hand, look them in
see.
the eye, and hug them.
Because if this stuff with his wife doesn't come out clean as a whistle, he will be dead. He won't be able to fundraise as a Republican.
What's going on with that story in it right now? I mean, because
I don't know. I hadn't heard any updates lately.
yeah, I mean, yeah, he gave us the money from taxpayer money for nonprofit. They turned around and gave it to a C4 for anti-drug issues and everything. People are actually trying to tell me that that's actually normal and okay. I guess people really have no idea how the election laws work, or if they actually care they're enforced.
I don't
But
know if I'm not even talking
IRS,
about. I'm not even contemplating whether or not what happened was legal or not. People's perception of it is improper.
yeah, their perception is totally off base.
So hard to say how that's going to turn out.
Yeah, because the PR is turning into the governor versus the House, or the governor versus the Senate, and this is a big. I mean, that seems to be the big thing here in Florida and Florida politics. Is that if
Yeah.
you're for the governor, you're against everybody in the Senate and the House. If you support just one of them, you're against the governor. I mean, it's ridiculous and childish.
Oh, he was down in Fort Walton today. It was today or yesterday, kind of hawking that same old thing. Oh no, these horrible legislators are rhinos, and everyone that opposes him is a rhino.
Yeah, it's all ridiculous bullshit, and it's guys grow up.
That rhino allegation is just about as tired and old as the you're a racist
Wow.
allegation. It's just
Yeah,
it is literally just the conservative version of
I
it.
have somebody calling me a rhino every day because I'm
Yeah, me
just
too.
not straight MAGA. And I'm like, guys, I just like the Constitution, like small government. Like,
Mhm.
I'm thinking Reagan had some really good speeches about tariffs. I mean, really good speeches on tariffs, like a lot of them, and that people should go back and listen to. And yeah. Anyway, well, you guys have a wonderful evening and wonderful week, and we'll be joining y'all again here next week. Please make sure you subscribe, like us, share with us, because just like we said, we had some views last week, and they all disappear this week. And so
Yeah,
the algorithm, we have no idea if you exist or not. We hopefully, you do, and we do. We exist, and we're
yeah.
having a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, well, the algorithm works against people who are plain spoken, and that's who we are.
Exactly. We're not going to hide from anybody, but obviously they're trying to hide y'all from us. So please make sure you guys contact us. If you want to email us, what's the line? Actually, I think we have my cell phone number on one of the websites, which is probably dangerous, but who knows?
I
Give
don't
me a
know about
call.
that, but I don't know about that, but drop us a DM or something like that, and we'll, I'm sure, become fast friends, or at least respectful foes.
Have a good evening, and thanks for watching the Political Matrix News.
Amen.